Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Freaks with a Z, the podcast about movies. Each episode is about a specific movie, and we'll get to this episode's movie in a little bit. But first, as usual, I need to invite you, the listener, to send us a fan recommendation. If you have a movie that you want us to watch and we haven't watched it already, go ahead and comment either on the latest episode of Film Freaks with the Z on YouTube or tune in on Spotify. There's also a comments section there as well. You can also talk on the Ferret Nation Discord in the movie stuff section and say, "Hey, I want you guys to talk about this movie in particular." Or, last but not least, you can send us an email at ff.filmfreaks with a Z at the end at gmail.com. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I am the Blair Ferret, and I'm here with...
Greedy Waffles.
Tay Mission.
Ray Positivity.
Hello. How are we all doing today?
Right there.
Yeah. Starting to come down with something, but other than that, I'm alright.
Let's power through this episode. So,
Yeah.
Yes, please.
before your sickness overwhelms you.
Mm-hmm.
So today was my pick, and with my pick, I decided to start off the spooky season, which by the time that this episode comes out, will be pretty close to October, so it all works out in the end.
It's close enough.
Yeah. And plus, this movie I feel like takes place in September. Like it's kind of fall-ish.
Yeah.
So it works out.
If you didn't do it now, I mean, by the time your turn comes around again, Halloween's passed. So
That's right. And then next time I have to pick a Christmas movie.
yeah,
Well,
or a Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah, I guess. Well, the movie that we're talking about today is The Blair Witch Project from 1999. There was a remake / reboot / return to the series in 2016.
It was a sequel.
Which
it follows the main character's brother.
That's right. I don't know if everyone watched that, but I watched that back in 2016 when it came out, so I may have some insight on that. There's also a couple of other Blair Witch projects that I did not know about, including like the what's this one called? Shadows of the Blair Witch, or Blair Witch 2 Shadows, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, that one came out shortly after the success of the first one. And asking my friend who's the one who originally showed me the Blair Witch, a big fan of the Blair Witch, said the second one sucks.
As they usually do. There's Donnie Darko, and then there's the Donnie Darko sequel, and that sucks. And there's the Blair Witch, and there's the Blair Witch sequel, which sucks.
So there
I can only
is.
imagine them getting worse.
Yeah. So I didn't. So I was kind of looking through just on Amazon. When I finished this movie, kind of just looking at all the different Blair Witch stuff, and I found it's actually a companion piece to this movie. I think it came out before this movie. It's like a little documentary about it, which is kind of funny because this is found footage, but then they made a documentary to like hype up this found footage of like, oh look, there was some found footage, we'll be releasing it soon. But like it kind of goes over the whole history of the Blair Witch and everything, and it talks about the missing campers, film students, whatever.
Yes, we keep calling this a movie, but it's actually a documentary. That this footage was found in Maryland, and the people who were filming it disappeared. And I think obviously we don't have to put on the facade the entire
It's been
podcast.
Over 20 years,
but I think that it was a very effective release for the movie. I wish that I was around in theaters at this time, like wanting to watch scary movies, because the original cut of this movie does not have credits; it just ends. I feel
the
like
ending is awesome.
I feel like having that black screen pop up, and then like inside the theater, the lights just turn on and you walk out. Like that is such an effective way to end.
So terrified.
Yeah, because it even says at the beginning, like this is footage found, and it's like back then, the internet was practically newborn at that point, and
yeah,
like
well,
people
that's the
weren't
thing. Yeah,
spinning around like all their ideas.
Nobody
and stuff.
knew that it was, like they got no name student actors basically. No one knew who these people were, and they did such a good job of conveying, like, it feels real watching it.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
even
for
knowing
sure.
it's fake.
They nailed the aspect of like getting lost, like in the
Yeah.
woods. I mean, they kind of question like how are they stuck in the time loop, but but they definitely nailed the panic and emotional of like being lost in the woods.
For sure.
Fun facts: they actually got lost IRL 3 times,
Yeah.
and every line in the film was improvised. So they were given a summary about the Blair Witch, and then just kind of
They let him go, like a Will Ferrell movie.
right.
Well, and that's like, you think the whole time there's only, it's just the 3 of them. I'm sure there was more than 3.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure there
Actual
was
crews.
actual people out there with them, but they do a good job of hiding, like, because there's not a lot of there's like no effects in this movie at all, right? But there's like some practical stuff, like the sticks and stuff, and the rocks that are everywhere.
Yeah.
And I
I
think
don't know
they
if
did
I'd
such
call
a
those practical effects so much as somebody just stacked rocks
Props
together
and-
or tied twigs together.
I think it's effective no matter what.
No, it's very effective.
And I
though.
think that the times in the movie that are the most effective are when they're showing that like black and white footage, and the audio doesn't really sync up with it because they're using the audio from that boom mic, but
Yeah.
or I'm getting it backwards maybe, but still either
No,
way.
you're not.
Either way, I just I love how it kind of goes like out of sync at times because you're following. I mean, I hate to skip to all the way to the end, but she's following the dude with the big. She has the big heavy camera and he has like the handheld, and the audio is from because I guess that guy was carrying the mic
data.
the
Or the
data
DAT.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So like you hear her going through the house, echoing through the house from far away, but
Yeah.
you're watching it from her perspective. So it just gives it like that really eerie, like unnerving moment
That's the best way to describe this whole movie. Just eerie and unnerving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned last episode at the end, like the forest setting is just creepy in general, and especially at night, obviously. And of course, there's plenty of games and movies now that try and get the same sense of kind of dread, I guess, that you get walking around a pitch black forest, like even like the game based on the Blair Witch was really good at doing that, where you could barely see a few feet in front of you and you could only illuminate the stuff that's nearby you, and that was just very, very effective. And I think that in terms of like scary locations, I think a forest is a really effective place. Like you don't really have to do anything because your imagination lets it go wild. I mean, you can. There's plenty of games that are scary on their own without like the thing following you. Like even like as rudimentary as it is, like Slender Man. Before Slender Man starts stalking you, it's still kind of creepy walking around that dead forest and all these abandoned buildings everywhere, right? And same thing with the with the movie here with Blair Witch. They don't even need to really do anything other than show like this shaky cam footage of a forest at night, or even sometimes during the day when they're arguing back and forth. Like you can really feel the tension, and it felt pretty real for what it's worth.
Especially when they find out what happened to the map, like that. I actually really felt that because we'd all be the same way. It would be like F you, what the hell, what's going on? Why would you do that? F you, F this. Because right now, and I actually love that scene because you can actually really tell in their voices. I don't want to say that it kind of switched. They kind of knew they were kind of lost and kind of screwed. But I feel like at that point, that's really when they realized, like, okay, we are being hunted, by this witch, pretty much. And another scene that I would like to point out is when was it Josh? Where they find like whatever that was, like his teeth or his hair, like that's another turning point. They're like, okay, we're not screwed, but I think the witch is after us, and I really love those two key moments.
They're screwed. Yeah. At that point, I think she realizes like it's over.
And I like that she just hid it from Mike, and trying to keep his spirits up. I think I would have told him though, so he wouldn't wander into an abandoned house.
Well, yeah. Well, one of the there was two moments in the movie that gave me goosebumps, like legitimately, and one of them obviously was the ending, and like how effective that ending can be with it's just a dude standing in a corner, like that's literally it, but it's so effective. Because they kind of hint at it at the beginning of the movie. Like the one guy was talking about the murderer who, he didn't want the kids to watch him murder the other kids, so he had to turn around in a corner. Like,
yeah.
And so it just, but that whole beginning section shows like, some people got like it was just a little muddled, but there's a lot of stuff that was actually like, kind of true in the various folk tales that they were talking about, and there were pieces and parts that matched up, which I think is really effective.
Yeah.
The other part that really gave me goosebumps was when Josh had been gone for like a day, and they had already spent the night, and then the next night they're hearing his voice in the distance, and they're calling out to him. I like legitimately like, especially when they switched to the black and white camera, like I felt the goosebumps creeping up on my arms. I'm like, oh man, this is so effective. Like it's really good.
When they run from the tent,
yeah,
like she just does a really good job of
selling,
relaying that emotion of oh shit.
Yeah. See the new one, the 2016 one, or the latest one, I guess I could say. They actually have like trees being pulled out from the ground, and there's all this like craziness going on. And it's almost too much. And I mean, I don't know if you care about spoilers for the 2016 movie, but they even show the witch. They have her flash a few times in the camera, which is another thing that's like, well, the whole point of the first movie and how it's so effective is they don't show it, right? Yeah. They just kind of, it's just kind of one of those creepy things where it's in the distance, or it's there, but you can't see it, right? And they actually show the witch in a couple of, I think there's like two scenes. So there's like a mirror shot at the end, and there's like a glare where you can see the witch, which, I mean, I guess could be kind of spooky, but in the context of the bombastic nature of the 2016 film, it's just a bit too much. It feels very video gamey. Leave that for the video game and put the suspenseful stuff in for the movie, right?
That's what we call a jump scare, and I hate those. And luckily, none of that is in this movie. So that's what I really like about this movie. It wasn't jump scare after jump scare.
What's weird, also, like just in the lore of the Blair Witch. So, like I said, I watched the little companion piece documentary, and basically the lore is that the Blair Witch kind of shows up every 40 to 50 years. And like, because first that, when it's this lady who was accused of being a witch who was sent out from town in the middle of winter, tied to a tree, and left for dead. And then a year later, she got her revenge. Like, people just started disappearing. All the people who accused her of being a witch just started disappearing. So that was the start of it. And then, like, 50 years later, that's where the coffin rock came into play, where a girl went missing, and they sent out this search party for her, and then the first search party was killed, on the rock. Mm-hmm. And that was like 50 years later. And then 50 years late from that is the guy who was abducting kids and putting them in the corner to not watch as he killed them. And then another 50 years later, it's these three. So it just doesn't make sense with this little, with the first movie, like the mythos they've set up. They're like, it's 17 years later and it's happening again? I don't know.
Yeah, well, the 2016 one also really dives into the whole weird way that time works inside the forest. If you stay one night, you're trapped in the forest, right? And but the weird thing is that 90% of the movie is nighttime. Like, it's so weird how the 2016 movie and the video game, it's mostly at night. And the Blair Witch Project from 1999, it its day and night cycle like normal. So it's just kind of weird how that got twisted along the way and turned into, well, now it's nighttime for 19 hours. I go to sleep, it's night, and I wake up and it's night. It's just kind of odd.
That's weird. And the whole reason, every 50 years works is because their search parties go out and look for them, and nothing happens to the search parties is because the witch already did her 50-year murder spree.
Yeah, she's done. She wipes her hands.
So she's
like,
done for another 50 years. She's good.
She's like, break time.
Yeah.
Yep.
She cracks open the cold one. Break time.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Although, and they did make it sound like it's always been at least around 7 people who've been murdered. And so it was weird that I guess only 3 this time.
Well, maybe that's why she came back in 17, because she was like, I haven't had my fill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. She's like, wait. Well, she came back in the second one, too.
Oh, well. Can't do
And I think
anything
in
with
the second one, you also see her, I think.
that. Yeah. I haven't seen that second one, so.
Yeah, I haven't either. I just, like I said, my friend told me about it. It was just like, it's garbage, don't see it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It only came out like a year after this one. Right, it was 2000.
Yeah.
And
Gotta
it
get it
went
last.
downhill so fast.
Well,
it's
at
probably
that
because the
point-
magic kind of wore out. Like, you have that spark, and you have like a real big success. And then you're trying to like capitalize on that and be like, okay, well let's do another run real quick, but it's just not going to have the same effect, especially if you have a higher budget.
You're trying to ramp it up, and everyone knows it's fake at this point. So you're like, well, now we can show the witch and do these cool things because everyone knows it's not real. But that's what made the first one so good. Like, even when you know it's not real, it feels real.
Yeah.
So, still it still gets my heart pumping watching it. Where it's like, oh shit. I don't want to go in the forest for a while.
And I just want to say this because it's grinded my gears since the day I watched the 2016 movie. But there is a drone in the movie, and it gets stuck in a tree. And there is probably about I feel like it was at least 30 minutes of film time dedicated to this one girl trying to climb the tree and grab the drone. And guess what happens to her once she gets to the drone? Just guess. I'm sure you'll get it.
She falls from the tree.
Yes, she falls from the tree and dies, and that's it. Like that entire plot point is done. It's so stupid.
Wow.
I hate it so much. Oh boy. The game was pretty good. I think they leaned too heavily on, like, there was like puzzle aspects in the game. I thought that was kind of weird, and then you kept like going back and forth in time. Like the lights would flash on the car, and all of a sudden, the car's all rusted and old now. It's like, okay, it's kind of weird. But it was actually a pretty effective game, mostly because you were trying to save your dog the entire time. Like your dog was with you, and you're like, well, I don't want the dog to die. So
Yeah. I think Blair Witch would let the dog leave.
well,
She's more vengeful of humans. Humans are the ones who fuck things up.
that's true. It's not like there was any animal bones as bad omens in this. So PETA approved.
PETA approved, exactly. And the Blair Witch is very nice. Doesn't use wrapping paper. She just uses a bundle of sticks and some torn up pieces of shirt
Yeah.
from her victims to wrap things up.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
As much as I really enjoy this movie, it also drags a bit. There's a couple things that could have been like cut out or shortened or whatever. And there's also a couple times where there's airplanes flying overhead, and it does kind of. I mean, I don't know if it takes you out of it, but it's just kind of distracting when they're talking and like an airplane is just flying overhead, and it's like, well, couldn't you have just like redone that, like redid that?
To be honest,
I didn't even notice.
It took me out of it, but also it like sucked me in a little deeper. I'm like, oh, like this is real life. Like this is like like you can't just edit out a plane in real life.
Yeah,
That's true.
So it was kind of like it's kind of nice to be brought back, but put in again.
Planes would be flying overhead, and that there's nothing they can do about that.
I suppose. All right, maybe you turn me around.
Hey.
Makes sense.
Hell yeah.
I guess I'm looking at it more from regular
A
movie
film.
standpoint,
Like a
but this
cinematic,
isn't
yeah.
supposed to be like an actual
Yeah.
movie. It's supposed to be found footage.
Yeah.
So of course they're gonna
Documentary.
be talking while a plane's flying. Or like, but it did happen like 3 times. I will say it's a bit distracting for the 3rd time. There's
I
a
didn't
plane
even
going.
notice.
I did.
I didn't notice either.
Yeah, I had this night. I have a subwoofer that really picks up on those plane tones.
Ah,
I guess.
Well, I watched it on my phone, so that might be why.
You watched on your fucking phone.
Oh my gosh.
Gotta get the
I watched
realistic.
it at work because we had like a lull. So I was like, oh, I might as well start it here. Watch the whole freaking thing.
Damn.
It was-
Yeah,
I became very behind on work.
I was just lying in bed, and I was like, I could go up to the front room, or I could just stay back here and lie in bed. That sounds better. So I watched it on my phone.
Should watch it on an old VHS player.
I mean, the
that'd be
very
so fun.
That'd be the way
the
to
first
do it.
time I watched it, probably, it might have been VHS.
Really?
It could have been DVD, but yeah, it was probably DVD at that point. It was probably a DVD. Because I didn't see this movie until probably 2004 or 5, I think.
Yeah, it's far enough along.
So, yeah.
DVDs. People were scrambling for Disney VHSs.
Yeah, my
Yep.
parents have a bunch of Disney VHSs. I wonder if they're worth
Nope.
money. Actually, they
I
probably got
can
rid
tell
of
you, no, they're not worth anything anymore. They at
No, that
one
makes sense.
point the Disney VHS market was exploding because they hadn't re-released all the movies on
Yeah.
DVD or they didn't have a streaming service yet. Now it's
For
kind of
sure.
pointless to have
Yeah.
VHSs.
Plus, I'm pretty sure my
Although
parents
you
did
can
not
have the
original.
original version of Lion King that has sex in the dust for one single frame. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big collector's item there. But anyway, yeah.
Off topic. Classic film freaks.
Let's talk about the characters a little bit. Did you guys in the beginning just hate Heather? Because I really couldn't stand her in the beginning. Just
mind her.
At the beginning, no.
actually.
Yeah,
I-
she was
I thought
very
she was
aggressive.
cool.
People were trying to ask, or she was asking questions, and people were responding, and she wouldn't even let them finish, and she was asking the next question. It's calm down, girl.
A
Yeah,
little bit.
I kind of liked it. It was exciting.
But
Like, she
that's
was
her
excited.
character. Yeah, that's her
Yeah.
character.
I get
super-
she's excited, but
well, it's
I don't
also
know.
it's also her trying to push them along because, I mean, I know this just because I used to take a camera around with me at school and stuff like that to get people to actually get their thought out. Sometimes you have to coax them a lot, and they can start meandering, and you got to get them back on track. I wouldn't normally push them if they're trying to think of the right way to say something. I'm not trying to fill in the blanks for them, but there was a way to coax people to be okay, we gotta, we're wasting film here, which could be what happened in this movie because I mean obviously they said they had what was it 2.5 days of footage that they could use or reels that they could use or something like that. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if she was maybe trying to push them to answer faster just because she was worried that
Yeah,
they
they
were
were
gonna-
going to run out of film.
run out of film. But it does
Yeah,
make it a
I
little
don't
bit more authentic too, because like you said, that is kind of her character. She's pushy, and that obviously leads to their inevitable downfall in the end. And I think it does set up the characters pretty well at the beginning too, just to just kind of see how things were before.
Yeah. Dude, the second they show her though, I'm just immediately it's oh, wow, yep, that is a girl. My sister, I think at one point had that same haircut in the 90s. Was definitely gave me nostalgia for the 90s.
Fair.
Yeah, and they had a nice car from the 90s too.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the first part of the movie is pretty good because you just get
I'm not saying the
these
first
people
part's
being
not
natural. I didn't say that. You didn't say it was good. I think there's a lot of people feel natural when they're talking, and even in the credits on Letterboxd for the movie, these are no name people who they might as well have just been someone who was standing in the middle of a restaurant or something, and they were just okay, we need you for a short film. Can you just say a line or two, talk about like just say like this line or whatever. Like it feels very authentic, especially like the guys fishing, and they're like back to back, and they were kind of palling around a little bit. Definitely felt very natural there too.
Yeah. No, like the one thing, this movie just is excellent in making everything feel authentic. Like even like I said, I know it's all fake now. We know it. Everyone knows it's all fake now, but it still just feels so real. Like it is probably one of the creepiest movies I have ever seen. Still to this day.
And it's not like horror, like,
Yeah, it's not like the jump scares and gore and stuff. It's just, it makes you feel unnerved, like, the whole time you're watching it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I could feel my heart racing at points and just like, oh no.
Apparently, in the beginning, or not like the beginning, but like the first like 45 minutes or so when the tent starts shaking, that was a surprise to them, so their fear was real.
Yeah, apparently the director shook the tents, and they weren't expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, working with what they got, it's
yeah.
But at the same time, how do they not hear his footsteps coming up? I guess they're sleeping.
If you're asleep, you wouldn't. I will say, like, their theory of like, oh, the fire is what brought them here, and then they did no fire, and immediately like the tent started shaking stuff, and so the next night they still did no fire. At that point, I was like, you know what? No, I'm doing a fire, and I'm finding like the biggest, thickest stick I can find, and I will beat somebody if they show up in camp.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but after a few nights, I don't think I'd be sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's one thing I was like, oh man, they can sure fall asleep easily.
Well, I mean, they were walking for 14, 15 hours a day.
True.
I feel like you would just pass out from exhaustion, even if you were super afraid.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was that point where they were talking in the tent. She's like, "Don't fall asleep." Oh, I won't. And then they both did.
Yeah.
Which that's how it would go.
Maybe it's the witch making them fall asleep.
Maybe, or probably just exhaustion.
Yeah, that too.
Well, it definitely somehow got Josh out of the tent.
Yeah.
Whether it was through some magic or whatever the sticky stuff was that was all over his stuff, maybe.
My guess is he probably wandered out.
And that's another thing. You hear noise. Why would you go out there?
Right.
Well, yeah. When the tent started shaking, I think the last thing I would do would be get out at that point because.
Right.
Yeah.
Do I want to come face to face with what's out there, or do I, leave the relative safety of the tent?
Yeah.
Because does the witch know how to use a zipper? I mean, if she was, left out there 100-some years ago,
Yeah. And did Josh follow them for that, or was? Yeah, because Josh was still there. Yeah, because
he wasn't gone until like the night after when they noticed the tent was destroyed, and then there was sticky goo all over his stuff because I think he was the one who tripped over the original rock.
Knocked
pillar.
over the rocks, and like he said that Heather stole something from like one of the little stick figures, but it was probably him. And so he was marked for first.
Yeah, there's so many horror stories that start with like, oh, there was like this weird figure. I took it down and destroyed it, or I took it down and threw it away. It's like,
I took it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I took it back home with me.
Yeah. Just don't do it.
That being said, how many times would you guys seen The Rock to know, and not Dwayne Johnson, like the pile of rocks before you knew like something weird was going on?
Well, I guess,
it seemed like Heather knew, but everyone else was like, it's nothing.
Well, I mean, there was like 5 or 6 piles that were pretty distinct in like a pattern. I feel like as soon as you see like more than one pile of rocks meticulously stacked, I think you start to go, okay, there's something going on here. Like the one guy even said like, oh, this seems like an ancient Indian burial ground or something like that.
Yeah, you're like, okay, that's another reason why you leave.
Yeah. So
why would you camp out by an ancient burial ground?
Yeah. So the first time I would see him, I would just think, oh, just someone's hiked through here, and because people stack rocks all the time while hiking.
Karens, right?
Yeah, yeah. And in some places, they use them to, like in Utah, I know that they use them to mark the trail. Like the rangers actually put them. Although they're not just a pile of rocks, they're usually like a stack of rocks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think anything of the pile until the next night, whatever, when suddenly there's 3 around the tent. Then I'd be like, okay, no, something's up.
Yeah, what the fuck is happening here?
Or the pile of sticks. You're like, that are wrapped around. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like her first thought was like, I'll just move this.
One
I
of the
wouldn't have
cool-
moved it. I
one of
wouldn't
the
have
coolest
touched it.
shots in the movie is like when they find those various stick figures or whatever you want to call them, and they turn on the old the black and white camera and they're filming it. It's just such a cool looking shot in like the grayish black and white kind of look to it. I love that section of the movie, and it's obviously like. Heather like is wanting to stay back and get more footage, and then they're like, "We're done with this. Let's go. Let's get out of here." It's a pretty good part of the movie too. Just showing, Heather was obviously diving a bit too deep into something that she didn't truly understand.
Yeah.
But at that point, it's like, how could you? Hindsight 2020, obviously.
Yeah.
But I love the stick figures and stuff that they made. Like, there's really no rhyme or reason to a lot of them. Like, some of them obviously look like, like a stick person, but there's other ones that kind of were weird
Just
and
triangles.
demented and just.
Yeah.
It's just once again, I come back to the word. It's a bit unnerving just to kind of see all the different shapes that these sticks were bent into.
Yeah.
And the kids laughing too.
Oh,
like,
jeez, yeah.
ugh.
Hell yeah. That was.
If I hear kids laughing and my tent shaking, I'm thinking, oh, it's kids. I'd be going out and punching some kids.
I highly doubt that if you're in the middle of the woods at 3 a.m. and you hear kids freaking laughing outside. Like,
Yeah, no, that's very unnerving.
Yeah.
Let's see. I would have after the first encounter, especially after that, I definitely would have been walking around, found like the biggest club I could find, and been walking around with a club the rest of the time. And there would be fires because it's like, okay, not putting fires makes it worse, so let's put fires and just keep that fire going all night. So I have light, I can see.
Better idea. Why don't you just burn the entire forest down?
Oh, yeah, that'd be a good idea too. Except for I'm in the forest, so I don't want to do that.
You dig like a trench around the tent, and you stay in the tent until everything's burned around you.
Fair.
Yeah. See?
Why didn't they just draw a circle like in SpongeBob?
Pee in a circle. Just pee in a circle. Blair Witch doesn't like the smell of pee.
Yeah,
you can't even comment on the music. There wasn't any.
Yeah, there's no music in this one. I mean, there was a little bit in the credits, but I don't really count the credits as part of the movie in this case because it's supposed to end on the black screen.
Yeah, and there wasn't music when they picked up Mike, just because they had like the stereo playing.
Yeah.
That doesn't count.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish that there was a bit more trim and done around the edges during the kind of like the first act of the movie. It started to meander a little bit. There's also some scenes that kind of retread similar ground to what they already were doing, which I guess could be a part of like not having a script per se, but more so having just an idea of what you want to do. Obviously, there's some things that kind of come back around and you just film again, or you just say the same thing again.
Yeah.
Because there was a couple times where, and obviously it's hard to keep track of time because when you turn off the camera and turn it back on, it's not like there's a date or anything on it. So, you don't know how much time has passed. But there's a couple times where they were arguing and then the camera turns off and then they turn it back on and they're arguing again, but they're in a different place. And you're like, hold on, is this the same thing or was this different? Or
Yeah.
But
That's the only, probably the least unbelievable thing is just how much she wanted to keep filming.
Well, I don't know.
That's
I mean,
fair.
Look,
Like-
like I said, I've taken I used to take my camera everywhere with me, and wanting to film every moment is alluring because you don't want to miss anything.
For sure, and I do get that. But there's times where, like, I think it was Mike. No, Josh was off like crying, and Mike's telling her, "Don't go film him." She's like, "Oh, I won't." It's like, why would you even film that? So, and that just some of that stuff led to it dragging a little bit. It's like, I just feel like, there's a few things where it's like, I feel like she wouldn't have filmed this, but because it's an actual movie, they did.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Which, like I said, if they cut some of that stuff out, it wouldn't have had that parts where it drags. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty much the second act and onward. I was fine with the pacing for the most part. It was just kind of like during that first act when there had to be at least 15 minutes of footage that they could have either trimmed out or cut down a little bit, because the first part of this movie does drag enough that my partner was snoring on the couch until the second act started. So
yeah,
and it was only like 5:00 when we were watching it too. I'm like, oh.
It's only an hour 27 minutes.
Yeah. The thing, like, at the beginning, it feels more natural that she would be filming stuff just because they were having a good time and, nothing was amiss. It's later when you'd be like, yeah, I don't think I need to necessarily record this part. So, I don't know. But I do agree, some of the earlier stuff could have been trimmed as well. But either way, they did a good job of, like I said, just making everything just feel eerie and real.
So did anyone get motion sickness from it?
No.
Thank God, no.
This ain't Cloverfield.
Yeah, I mean there were like maybe a moment or two that were a bit too shaky, and I could be like, okay, if it was like continuing like this, would definitely maybe feel a little bit queasy, but I don't think there was anything throw up worthy in the movie.
I don't either. Like, I don't know what that kid's problem was, but I hope he's grown out of it.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Cloverfield, that's another found footage movie that there's times where you're like, okay, yeah, they definitely would have stopped recording at this point.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, thanks to the Blair Witch, that started a couple, found footage, paranormal activity.
Well, I mean, they started off pretty good with Cloverfield and Paranormal Activity, and then there's like 6 paranormal activities now, and there's like there was that superhero-ish movie that was also found footage, and a lot of that didn't make a lot of sense either, because it's like, well, why is there a camera rolling here? Why is there a camera right here, right? And there was other found footage movies like there's one by M. Night Shyamalan that was like The Visit or something like that, and they, in order to have it be movie quality, they gave the kids like these really high tech cameras, and it's like, well, these kids would never in a million years have these kind of cameras. And two, as one of the YouTubers I watch points out, the film changes, like obviously they record film and movies in different kind of films, right? But the version of the camera they were using for some shots was better than what the camera they were holding would have been. So it's like, now we don't even have consistency anymore. So I think at this point the found footage genre is dead, essentially.
Yeah, thank God.
There's still a couple of games trying to replicate that with maybe relative success, but the movie genre has definitely been done to death at this point, and I don't see it having a rebound, simply because who's gonna want to watch another movie like The Blair Witch or like Cloverfield on a handy cam for 90% of the movie, and like I
feel like it could come back at some point. Somebody will actually have a really good idea that will seem natural, kind of like The Blair Witch. I could see that happening. I don't know if it will, but.
And obviously, there's probably exceptions to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know all the movies, though.
Yeah, I think there could be one that could do it good and make you, found footage. And then, it'll pick up again. Everyone's like, oh, we got to do found footage. And then everyone else will do it wrong. And
they'll bring back Paranormal Activity. They'll bring back The Blair Witch again. Because they're like, oh, these were found footage movies that people loved.
Yeah. It'll be like, with 3D. 3D died, and then Avatar brought it back, and then everyone was just cramming 3D after doing 3D effects after the...
Making a 3D TV,
Yeah. It was bad. It was very bad.
Yeah, that's one thing that I still can't believe is still super popular. There's 3D releases with every single movie still, and it's like, who's watching?
Are there?
One? Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine recently had a 3D version at my theater,
Wow.
and I'm like, who's paying the extra like $5 to see it in 3D? I mean, I could see where maybe it would be effective, like during the opening scene where he's using Wolverine's body to kill a bunch of people. But
No,
other than that, it's
spoilers.
like, why else? Why else is there 3D in the movie? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's weird.
Oh,
I'll say I don't see
just
any 3D
remembered.
releases anymore.
In terms of like bad found footage movies, there were a couple of movies where like it was the screen of a laptop, and there was like 2 or 3 that were really bad. There's one that I did like. I think it was called Searching or something like that. But there's a couple of those kind of movies where you're like the footage is like from the laptop screen and everything's on the laptop. That genre kind of died out too at this point. It's kind of the same thing as found footage, but a bit more modern, I guess you could say.
I don't remember any of those.
Well, then it must not have existed.
It may have. I don't see a lot of movies.
What was the one called? Dark Web?
Oh, I do remember Dark Web.
Dude, this
I didn't
is
realize
Dark
that was like
Web.
a found footage.
Well, yeah,
internet.
I mean, it's essentially someone's laptop screen is the whole film. It's supposed to be the whole film, right? So instead of them like texting on a phone or talking to someone IRL, it's all through Skype, or they're using like the chat on a Mac. You know, they can talk to people, or they're like typing up messages in Facebook chat or something like that. So it's supposed, it's yeah. I mean, you have to suspend a lot of disbelief for those kind of movies, but yeah,
Yeah.
they weren't good. Lots of them weren't good, which is why we haven't seen one since, I don't know, 2016, I think.
Dark Web. There was one. Didn't do well, so we don't see it anymore.
No, I know there was a couple because I watched at least 3 movies like that. One of them
Gotcha.
actually being good, which I do remember that being called Searching. It wasn't perfect, but still good. Like, in terms of that genre, it kind of was good. There was also another one where, like, this girl's mom went missing, and she was, like, using...
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
I remember seeing the trailers everywhere, and I was like, oh, we're still doing these movies, huh? I feel like that was only a couple years ago.
It sounds familiar, but I don't remember what it was called, or I never saw it or anything. But
Yeah. Oh, well.
Was it Wreck?
No, I'm pretty sure it's literally called Missing.
Oh, there you go.
There's apparently a bunch of... Apollo 18 is a found footage? No, it's not.
it kind of,
Actually, I don't. It might be actually.
yeah, kind of is. Like it's like
I
an
guess.
unearthed foot. It's not necessarily found. Like it was supposedly like covered up by the government, and somebody
Found
leaked
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Do I recommend? No, I'm kidding.
Well, it is your pick. We'll see what you.
yeah, I think that one's on Netflix, isn't it?
Not quite here.
Oh, okay.
I have a physical copy of it, so.
Oh.
Oh. Yeah.
I know it's bad, so I don't want to recommend it.
Yeah, there's not too many horror movies like The Blair Witch that kind of make me get goosebumps on my arms. I think this one definitely is very effective in that. The other one, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, especially the like ending, is, well, I guess not the ending, but like close to the ending is very effective when she's like tied up in the family's house. Like that is such a creepy sequence there.
It's been forever since I've seen that. I don't remember.
The original
much.
It, pretty much just because I hate clowns, and also I feel like I was like 12 years old when I originally watched it.
Probably.
That thinking about that freaking clown and the sheets are like twirling around him. I hate thinking of that scene so much. I hated watching that. I can't really think of any other like horror movies that have gotten me to feel super tense. At least not lately. I Saw I don't find scary, but I do like watching a lot of them.
Oh.
It's more of just like a fun horror. Like there's horror and then there's fun horror. And like the Saw movies are kind of fun horror because a lot of them don't really have too coherent of a plot, and like the twist is crazy and insane, and the traps like are unbelievable. Like how did a cancer patient build a trap like this, right? So you have to suspend a lot of disbelief for those movies, and they're a lot of fun to watch. But a lot of times, like the people who are in the traps are the most like the stupidest people ever. Like Saw 2 it's probably been my least favorite, and it will probably be my least favorite forever because everyone in that movie is just so incompetent and annoying. And like the most like the easiest clue that Jigsaw ever gave to them, and they just ignored the entire thing because he's like, the answer is on the back of your head. And it's like, as soon as he says that, I would be like, all right, everyone turn around. Let's see what's on the back of our heads. Nope. They do not. The one guy gets freaking killed right away because he tried to open the door that had a gun attached to it. Like, what are you stupid? Yes, actually.
Yes. Clearly.
And it might have been the third one that also had a really incompetent guy doing the traps. At one point, he essentially so. Don't ask me why Jigsaw did this to him, because he lost his like wife and he's trying to take care of his daughter, and Jigsaw's like, you don't appreciate your daughter enough, so you're gonna go through these traps. And it's like, okay, buddy. And then like he's the guy who like I guess he like hit his wife with his car or something like that, got off pretty easily, all things considered. So he's going through these traps, and like the people who allowed him to get off easily are the ones he's trying to save. So there's a bit of a moral quandary there. And eventually, on like the second person that he comes across, he actually does try to like legitimately save them, and he does. And then the next room that he goes into, he accidentally shoots the guy in the head with a shotgun, and the other guy just dies because he's in the trap. And it's like, this guy has to be so fucking moronic to allow the firearm to go off when the guy is standing right in front of it, blatantly right in front of it. But like I said, I mean, the Saw movies, I don't really take them too seriously. But when they're bad, they're bad. And the second movie is the second movie is like so bad, I never want to think about it again. But they're very up and down. Like the first movie's good, second movie not so good, the third movie kind of really bad. But then the fourth movie got me back into it, and the fifth movie was actually pretty good too. So I've been watching through all of them again, and I was kind of worried that Saw was going to go the same route as Fast and Furious, where it like starts off good or like at least competent, and then it just tanks almost immediately. And it surely did tank, but it got back on its feet, and I think it's kind of running right now. But obviously, the farther we get away from having the actual Jigsaw guy in the Jigsaw role, I think that it's going to start to lose its magic a little bit. But we'll see how it goes. For me, at least, we'll see how it goes. I guess Fast and Furious took a couple of movies for me to really start hating them, though. So it's kind of the opposite, where Fast and Furious, like the first three or up until Tokyo Drift was like, oh, that's fun. And then it was like, well, this is abysmal and stupid, and I hate this. Sorry, Callus. He knows how he was on the episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like looping this all the way back around. I never get like that sense of like goosebumps from watching a Saw movie. Like maybe the first movie could do it here or there, but the acting in the first movie is so flaky that it kind of takes you out of it anytime the actors open their mouths. So I wouldn't say that like the Saw movies are like spooky horror. They're just kind of like a fun horror, you know, like. And on the twist into that, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of is like the Blair Witch Project in a way, where it feels so real with these characters, and they're all getting like brutally murdered by this crazy family, and like the ending sequence of the lead girl just like screaming for what felt like a 30 hours straight in the movie was just so intense. Like it that one really kind of got under my skin there. It was pretty intense, especially when she was in the house tied up and the whole family's like being really creepy, and it's just it's one of those horror movies that it kind of sticks with you because it's like so aggressively horror, right? Yeah. So there you go. I don't know if that answers whatever question Greedy originally had. I don't even remember at this point.
I don't even remember at this point. You want a tantrum?
Well, you make me start talking about Saw, and I'm kind of passionate about it now. When I was growing up, I really only watched like the first movie, and then I think I watched like Jigsaw, which was like the supposed like quote unquote reboot or whatever. So it's been fun to go back through them. Like it's not been 100% fun. Like I said, like the second movie and the third movie are kind of bad, but it picks back up and it becomes fun again by the time the fourth movie comes around, especially because they start like pulling all these like threads together from the other movies. So it's like you can't really skip over any movies in the series because there's a thread linking that movie to the next one, or even like in the future, like 4 or 5 movies later, they're like, and this is why this happened in the second movie. It's like, oh, okay. Does it make it worth watching? Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't want to watch it again, but it definitely is worth it to watch it so you have the context for later in the series. It's such a weird, like, Saw is such a weird series because it just keeps looping back around to things that happened in the first, like, 3 or 4 movies over and over again. But it does make it kind of fun and interesting, so, yeah, there's a little bit of a trade-off there. You get through the sludge to get to the interesting stuff towards the end. Or at least in the middle. I'm in the middle of the series right now.
All right, and the Blair Witch. All right.
Right?
The ending. Let's go to the ending. Is everyone ready for the ending? Even though we kind of talked about it, but
yeah, I was like, are we ready?
I was gonna say I don't have anything else to add to it.
Yeah, I was like, I think we're ready just to
move on. You guys all agree that they all died? Because apparently when I was like doing some research, apparently there was a whole like debate about whether they died or this and that and this. I was like, really? Like they obviously all died.
Well, this was back when people didn't know, then probably from when people didn't know it was fake.
That's possible.
And they're like, I swear I saw him like on the bus. It's like, yeah, you did because he's an actor.
Right. A lot of people were sending the lead chick's mom like condolences because they thought that her daughter died.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Fun fact about her: she was in like I think 3 other movies after this, but she kept getting typecasted because of Blair Witch. So she retired from acting and now owns a pot farm.
Nice.
Ah, nice ending.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Something to take the edge off, you know?
Yeah. The other 2 are still in like writing and directing and acting.
That's cool.
Well, yeah, it's even more effective to watch it because nothing really happened with these actors afterwards, right? You don't really see them everywhere. It's not like a scenario where you have like Seth Rogen in an early movie of his, right? And then you see him in like all these movies afterwards.
Yeah.
It makes it even more effective and believable that because you don't see these people plastered everywhere. They're not big time movie stars. They're not in anything else of note really in the future.
They excuse me, they have some like I said, I think it's Josh did a lot more directing. Like he's been like little, small part roles in some bigger movies. You probably wouldn't recognize him just because he doesn't. You don't ever really get a super good look at his face, I guess. But yeah, I mean they've done some really good stuff. But yeah, they're not big Hollywood stars for sure. So, and like I said, yeah, she after being typecast 3 times went, I'm done.
Yeah. But yeah, it does make it a bit more believable, especially back in the day when they were fresh faces and you didn't know who they were. You could totally believe that it was some found footage, especially with how I've already mentioned this, but how the movie ended originally with just a blank screen.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, the little companion piece, like documentary that came out before, it basically, says like these, like there's news, news segments like about these missing teens and how people have been searching. They talk to the search party. They talk to the cops. You actually even see footage of the guy from the 50s who murdered all the children. Like, you actually see an interview with him from, like, in his jail cell with the cops. And, like, all these little things that just, like, it's like, and then we found this footage, which we will be releasing, like, the studio is compiling it, and we'll release it. And it wasn't like a studio you'd heard of, like, oh, yeah, it's, DreamWorks or something. It was just, like, the archive footage, basically, like, company was compiling developing and compiling the footage to tell the story.
Yeah, the last thing we need is for Disney to buy the rights to the Blair Witch and make Heather into a Disney princess.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm also nervous about the future of the Blair Witch IP. I feel like at this point it's kind of been... With the 2016 movie, I think it's irreparably been damaged at this point. Even though the game was good, I just feel like they've gone too out there with the concept. It's too bombastic now. It's all over the place with time loops and like even more insane time loops and a never ending night and blah blah blah, which are on paper, a never ending night pretty spooky.
Yeah.
But is the 2016 movie with its endless night or the video game with its endless night more scary than the Blair Witch Project? Honestly, I would say no.
No, like the fact that they get a reprieve, like creepy stuff happens and then they get a reprieve and they're like, okay, we're making progress, and then you find out, oh shit, we've gone in a circle.
Yeah. That moment where they reach the same log.
Hard.
Yeah, after 12 hours of hiking.
Yeah. I would break like that too. That's
terrible.
Yeah. Again, that goes back to how realistic and emotional this movie does makes you feel.
Yeah. See, and then if I put myself in that situation, it's like, well, I do have some survival stuff,
yeah,
I know survival things and how to go in a straight line and make sure I'm going in a straight line and all that. It's like, is it magic or would I have been okay? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just when I was camping when I was younger, I was Boy Scout, doing all these camping. I know it's a little different, you're not exactly in the woods, you're more in a park kind of thing, but still, just walking around, at night, I just willy-nilly, not a care in the world, just walking in the forest at some random park or, doing my Boy Scout things by myself. But now I'm yeah, I don't want to camp at all.
Yeah, ours, we wouldn't, when I was Boy Scout, we would go out in the woods, not necessarily always to, the campgrounds, scout camps.
Yeah, we pitch our tents, in the woods, but...
Yeah, and I do remember one time, me and two other kids, went hiking, just kind of wandered off, and we did get a little lost, and we were kind of freaking out, and, basically I was like, guys, we need to go, we just need to go down. We know we're above everything, we'll just go down.
And always follow the river.
Yeah, well, there was no river, but we just went down, and we came across, we weren't far enough away, we came down to a different campground, and we just had to then walk towards our campground.
Now that I think about it, did they ever follow the river in the movie? Why wouldn't you follow?
Following it the entire time.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Because they had to cross it a couple times. So.
Yeah, and if they're following it and still not getting away, then yeah, they were stuck in some sort of magic time loop. Either that or the Blair Witch just kept following them.
Yeah.
And Heather saying oh yeah, we have to go back to the car a different way. I'd be like, no.
What? Excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't make sense at all, Heather.
Yeah, that was essentially her just trying to
yeah.
I don't know, just I don't know what she was doing actually. Honestly, why you should just go back the way that you came.
Yeah, you should.
All right. Anyone else have anything that they want to say about the movie?
Just ready for final thoughts.
All right, I will. I will get us started then. So, the Blair Witch Project. It's a good watch. I know I don't know. There's probably just due to a modern audience, there's probably more mixed reviews than I was expecting to see, like on the various websites. But I thought it was good. It was fun at times. It was super creepy at times. Still pretty effective all in all. If you try and put your mindset into that like found footage, back in 1999 when this was released and watching it originally, not knowing that it is like not real or whatever. I think that it's very effective, and it's still pretty effective either way without not knowing that it's fake, essentially. Yeah, I respect this movie a lot for working with what they had. I mean, there's nothing like super overtly like scary or visceral about the movie because you don't really see anything. Even at the end of the movie, as we've already mentioned, like it's just a dude standing in a corner. But because of the way that it's filmed and shot, and because of the way that the microphone is set up in that scene and in plenty of other scenes as well, it just gives it a bit more of an eerie vibe and a bit more of a chilling vibe to it because you're you're watching this footage of Heather go through the ending house, and you're hearing her voice from farther away than it actually should be because there's no mic attached to the camera she's using. So it's very fun at times. It's very unnerving at times. Probably could have been trimmed a little bit here or there, but all in all, it's still a fun watch, and I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Well, cool. Yeah. I would like this movie as well. Like I said, I'm not a big, horror fan, as Yummy knows. I just hate, like jump scares, but I like suspenseful stuff. Like I'll watch that. This one was a good. Like I said, it's very eerie feeling. It feels, almost at home kind of thing. Because you would panic, and you would get these same emotions throughout being lost, and the events that happen. You would scream at the guy that lost the map, and just very emotional that you would feel in real life, and they do nail a great job doing that in this movie. Acting was good. Like I said, I didn't care. Heather was a little annoying in the beginning, but like you said, that's just her, being excited and just being, worrying about maybe tape footage and stuff. But I love the ending. Ending, very simple, but it packs a punch. And it gets people talking like we did today. I'm gonna give it also a 4 out of 5.
Okay. So I'm also not a big, huge like horror fan. And this movie, even though, like I said, even though I know it, I know it's fake, it's still, they did such a good job of just making it feel authentic that, yeah, you still do get goosebumps. Your heart races. You're like, oh shit, what's going on? And I thought they did a real good job of that. And I feel like it's definitely, it pioneered a whole genre of movies, the found footage genre. And, you gotta give it a little credit for that because, yeah, it did such a good job. Would I watch this movie if it was on TV? Probably not. Probably just no, I'm good. I don't need my heart racing right now. But I still enjoy it. It's still, like I said, it's so good. And I'm actually going to give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Ooh.
Just because of all it did for us. Which maybe the found footage thing wasn't a good thing, so maybe I should give it a 2.
Oh my goodness.
2?
No, I give it a 4.5 because I even almost debated giving it a 5.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
But like I said, it's not even my favorite movie. I don't, but it's just it was done so well that I'm just I got to give it to him. But because of personal feelings, I'll bring it down to 4.5.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. It did have a couple of slow spots that were kind of boring, but they definitely knew how to draw you back in, and I feel like the way that it was edited and the fact that there's no music, there's no cinema really in it, I thought that was fantastic, and it was very raw and emotional, and you could feel their exhaustion, and it was just that was insane. Like you could definitely feel the pain that they were going through, which sucks, but it's great, to talk about. Like we said, so yeah, I thought it was really great. The acting was phenomenal. So I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
Well, all right. Glad that we all enjoyed this one. Mm-hmm. I'm always a bit nervous picking movies that I want to revisit that I don't, I don't remember a lot about, right?
Yeah.
There's once or twice I've had a bit of a flop here and there just from doing that. So I'm glad that this one worked out.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been in that position. Don't worry.
Well, we're going to do the small recommendations first before we do the next recommendation from Greedy Waffles. So does anyone have any small recommendations?
Don't get sick. That's mine.
Good one.
Take vitamins and stuff.
Actually, I did. If you're in Vegas, I actually, like I said, I had a friend visiting this weekend from out of town, and we were able, which might be how I got sick, we were able to go visit the Omega Mart, which is a fun little experience. Like, it's kind of hard to explain without like ruining everything. But if you have,
thing?
it's not even like necessarily super trippy. It's a little trippy. But if you like things like it kind of has a feeling like Portal 2 in some ways. Just kind of like taking down an evil like corporation, but like also figuring out all the like secrets and histories and like it's really cool. Definitely would recommend if you're down in the Vegas area. Definitely give that a try.
I recommend doing something that you love that you haven't done in a while, because I streamed today and it was so much fun. I had a great time and I really missed it.
Yeah.
So, do something you love.
I watched Beetlejuice last week, opening night. And for a Legacy sequel, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I thought that the opening was a bit too much like, remember this from Beetlejuice? Remember this? But eventually it became its own...
with Beetlejuice in the waiting room. His number's finally called.
No, he's actually made a business out of doing his haunting thing. But eventually it became its own movie, and it ended in a very fun way. So I would recommend going to see it because it was fun. Michael Keaton knocked it out of the park. Like I didn't know if he could do Beetlejuice again after all these years, but he knocked it out of the park, and everyone else does a great job too. So it was fun.
That's good.
Maybe a bit like the main antagonist is a bit maybe cliche, I guess, or not used enough. But yeah, the rest of the movie's good. So definitely would recommend if you're a fan of Beetlejuice or whatever. It's a good one.
Okay, that's good to hear.
All right.
Mine is drink water.
Drink water.
Always good.
Well, Greedy, give us another recommendation, because it's your time to pick a movie.
A movie recommendation.
All right, so I'm gonna go to a franchise that I never watched, and I'm kind of scared because I know it's not the greatest, but I want to kind of see it for myself. And so what I'm gonna recommend is Resident Evil from 2002. Like I said, I'm kind of scared with this one. So, a little synopsis, if you don't know, by either the video games or the movie. A special military unit fights a powerful, out-of-control supercomputer and hundreds of scientists who have been mutated into flesh-eating creatures after a laboratory accident. Director... What's that?
Keep going. Sorry, keep going.
What were you going to say? No, go ahead.
Oh, I'll say it once you're done introducing the movie.
Director is Paul W.S. Anderson. Some stars: Mila Jovovich, Michelle Rodriguez, Ryan McCluskey, and let's see what else. Anna Bolt and a bunch of other people.
Well-
So like I said, I played the video games. Well, not all of them, but I played some of them, and I'm interested to see in the movie.
Well, I was just gonna say, if you're a fan of the video game, don't get too hopeful.
Oh, okay.
Like the movie's not like the first one itself. It's not horrible, but yeah, it's barely the video game. Like
Yeah, that's why I'm scared of it,
Yeah.
scared to watch it. But
the
Like
second one,
Doom.
the second one was a little closer to the video games, and that like they actually brought in like Jill Valentine and stuff. But
well, I can't pick the second one, even though I'm notorious for doing it. But
yeah, I understand. I think those were the only two I saw. Was the first two, and yeah, the second one was the better of the two, if I remember right. Again,
according
still
to-
not great. Like
Yeah.
if you're a fan of the games.
Well, as long as it's
according
fun.
to the ratings online, the third one has like a 12%. So
Ooh.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, Greedy Wolves and I played through Resident Evil 5 together. Had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah,
I've played
that
through pretty
with my
much every
friend.
game at this point, other than 0 and the original version of 1 and 2 and 3 and Raccoon City. There's a couple I haven't played, but a majority of everything from 4 onwards, I've pretty much played at this point. Even 6 and some of the more niche ones.
Yeah.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
only played the older ones, like I think 1 and 2, and then 5 with Yemmy. But
Yeah.
5
played-
was such a fun experience because it was
I played. Yeah, I played 5 with a friend. I don't think we ever finished it. I've watched my friend play most of 4, like enough to know the story. And then my one friend is also just was obsessed with Resident Evil back in the day,
Mhm.
before they kind of ruined the series. So like, yeah, I've learned most of the story from her.
You know, really, 6 is really the only game in the mainline series that's actually like 100% bad.
Yeah.
It's so funny
I
that
know
people
Raccoon
say
City
that.
was pretty bad.
Well, I mean, I haven't played Raccoon City, so I can't really comment on
yeah.
that. But it's
Yeah.
like the series is like 10, 11 games strong now at this point.
Yeah.
2 bad games? Like, is that really like that big of a deal? I don't know.
Like, so my friend, she loved 4, and I don't know if I kind of at that point, like, I moved away, so I don't know if she ever even played 5.
Yeah, well, a lot of people took it was obviously 5 is more action packed than
Yeah,
4.
well,
Like,
that's-
4 is already pretty action packed, and then they
Yeah. Oh, so that was I
jumped it
think
up.
her problem with the games is they went from like scary games to action games. Like she still like said loved 4, but yeah, I think her problem was like I wanted a scary game, not an action game.
5
and then
has
she
its
did
moments.
play
5 has its
7.
moments for sure.
Yeah, she did play 7 because 7, went back to the scary roots.
Yeah.
I don't know if she
Yeah.
she did enjoy 7. I don't know if she
You know,
played 8.
7.
Yeah, the new ones are back to scary.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, 8 wasn't like 8 was kind of back to action pack, honestly.
A little bit. I mean, you had the
I
big
mean,
old
it's-
giant woman that you could smack her ass.
Yeah, there was still it still had its moments for sure. I've talked about it a million times at this point. It still had its moments, but it
Yeah.
was definitely like a mix between like the action-packed Resident Evils and then like a couple sections that were closer to like the old school stuff.
Yeah.
But
Well, what's
7 was definitely like it was kind of 7 was partly inspired by Blair Witch. Did you know that?
Yeah.
But 2, yeah,
think
it was a return to being like the house. You go through the house and you have like
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
what I
a
was
more of
gonna
like a progressive type thing where
Well,
and you
and that
also have
one,
like
like,
enemies who don't die and
Yeah, so that one was also not necessarily zombie, like Umbrella Corp and zombies and stuff. Like
Yeah,
it was
that
kind of a
was-
reboot.
yeah. I mean, well, it's Ouroboros, which was introduced in the 5th game.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a slime creature. It's not called Ouroboros anymore, but it's practically the same thing. And then 8 kind of expanded on that by having like the lichen characters and all that being. Well, I don't want to spoil it because I would rather everyone play those games because 7 and 8 are really good. Even though Ethan is a bit annoying, the main character is a bit annoying in the 8th game. They're still really good. So
Cool.
I'm
Also
sure
fun
we'll talk
acting.
about all the video games.
Yeah.
And I'm Resident Evil.
Also, I'm in the 8th game. One of the main villains looked like me when I had longer hair, so I'm in the game.
Wow.
Hey.
Is he named Yemmy the ferret?
No,
Yeah, they based it off his looks. How
they
about
did base it off my looks though. I think there's an entire stream where I cosplayed as him for Halloween.
I think you have remotes. Don't
I used
no,
I used
you probably
to
got
have
it rid of them. Yeah.
They're old at this point. That's like 3 years ago.
Bring them back. No.
I could.
But yeah. Developers, if you're listening that have the IP, please remake 5.
Well, I think
Or
that's,
even
I think that's what they're doing. But
I hope so.
I personally don't need a remake because the original
I
games
do.
are good, and you can still play them on modern consoles with the PS4 version. So,
Yeah.
I would just want it because we could play through it
well,
again.
you know what they're gonna do is they're gonna change it almost completely, like they did with Resident Evil 2 and 4 and stuff. And even though those games are like good, like don't get me wrong, I foresee them taking out a lot of that bombastic.
take out the
fun
whole
stuff.
boat section.
Yeah, they'll probably take out they'll probably take out a lot, but they'll probably use a lot too because that spider battle pretty intense in Resident Evil 5. The one guy who couldn't die except to fire was pretty intense.
Adam West, that handsome man. Was it Adam West? Yeah, I think it was Adam West. I don't know.
You mean Wesker?
All right.
Was it
Wesker.
Wesker?
Yeah, Wesker.
Yeah. Adam West.
Adam West is an actual
yeah,
person.
He was Adam West is the Batman actor.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Actual person, yeah.
And the mayor of Quahog in Family Guy.
That's right.
Yes. Anyways, we should end it here.
Yeah,
I think.
Tay's sick, so we should probably stop yapping.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
All right, folks.
Right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Film Freaks with a Z. We really do appreciate that. Make sure you like the video. If you're on the Spotify or Apple Podcast platform, we appreciate you listening as well. I am Yemmy the Ferret, and I've been here with...
Radio Waffles.
Animation.
Ray positivity.
And this has been another episode of Film Freaks with a Z. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.